Dear students, today we are going to discuss types of operating system. Okay, we are going to discuss different types of operating system. Okay, before starting with types of operating system, in the last lecture we missed talking about BIOS. Okay, let me quickly tell you about BIOS. What is BIOS? BIOS. BIOS stands for Basic Input Output System. It is a software stored on a small memory chip on the motherboard of the computer, which instructs the computer how to perform basic functions such as booting. Booting means starting of the computer, configuring the hardware. If you install a new hardware into a computer, it will first try to communicate with the BIOS. Okay. Now, BIOS will help you to configure or make that hardware work properly with the computer. Okay, it also manages the data flow between the operating system and the attached devices. Okay, so this is BIOS. BIOS stand for Basic Input Output System. Okay, now let's again come back to different types of operating system. Okay, so the first type of operating system is the single user operating system. Okay, so single user operating system was the initial or the first version of the operating system, and it allowed only one user to work with the computer at a time. The examples, the different types of the different examples or the most popular single user operating system were Microsoft DOS or the disk operating system, Microsoft Windows 3.1, and MS or Microsoft 95. These operating systems were the single user operating system. Now, due to the limited features on them, okay, there were very limited features on the single user operating system. Nowadays, we don't use the single user operating system. Okay, the next type of operating system is the multi-user operating system. Okay, the multi-user operating systems allows more than one user to use the same computer at same time or different times. Now, Windows 2000 was the first version of the Windows which allowed creation of several accounts on the single computer. Okay, the other some of the other examples of multi-user operating systems are the Microsoft Windows Vista, Microsoft Windows 7, Microsoft Windows 8, Linux, Unix. All these are the examples of your multi-user operating system. Okay, and there are many other examples, but we are going to talk about these only. Now let's move on to the next type of operating system, which is the multiprocessor operating system. The multiprocessor operating system, as the name suggests, a multiprocessor operating system or a multiprocessor system consists of several processors. A multiprocessor computer system consists of several processors that share common physical memory. Okay, there is a single memory, but there are many processors. Okay, now in this system, all processors operate under single operating system because there is same storage memory. That's why there is only one operating system, and one operating system manages all the processors. Okay, now it provides now so it provides higher computing power and speed that allows the user to run and work in multiple applications at the same time. Okay, execution of several tasks by different processors at the same time increases the system's performance. Okay, so this is our multiprocessor operating system. So what is multiprocessor system? A computer system which has many processors, and to handle this type of computers we require multiprocessor operating system. Okay, an operating system which can handle a multiprocessor system. Okay, next, the next type of operating system is the multitasking operating system. The multitasking operating system. Now, the ability to perform more than one task together at one time is called as multitasking. Okay, an operating system which is capable of doing multiple tasks or processes while using common processing resource, that is using only one CPU, is called as multitasking operating system. So in multitasking operating system we are going to have a single processor. Okay, but the operating system is capable of managing many tasks at the same time. Okay, now actually the operating system handles one task at one time only, but it gives a very short time to a single process. So much short time, in a matter of nanoseconds, that we it creates an illusion that multiple tasks are running together. Okay, it switches from one program to another so quickly that it gives an appearance of executing all the programs at the same time. Okay, so these type of operating systems are called as multitasking operating system. The next type of operating system is the multi-threading operating system. So what are multi-threading operating systems? These operating systems allow different parts of a software to run simultaneously. Okay, so a software consists of different parts. Okay, a software can consist of different parts or modules, which are also called as threads of the software. Okay, now the multi-threading operating system, what it does, it allows different parts of the same software or different threads of the same software to run simultaneously. Okay, now what happens due to this feature of multi-threading? What happens, it can sometimes delay the execution response times of certain processes. For example, if you host a game server on a local area network with your friends, okay, now what will happen is that your friends will utilize different parts of the same game by connecting to your machine at the same time. Now all the resources will be utilized from your machine, which can be a performance degrading factor. Okay, because many people or many computers are trying to connect with your computer. Okay, and it is having, and they are all the different computers will utilize the resources from your computer. That's why due to this sometimes your performance can be degraded. You can see this in many online games. Okay, when many different types of people using different computers try to connect to the same game resources, okay, it can tend to lag your computer system. Okay, so these type of operating systems are called as multi-threading operating system. The common examples of such operating systems are Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, Unix and Linux, and there are many other examples. Okay, the next type of operating system is called as the real-time operating system, or in short form we call it as RTOS. So real-time operating system is designed to handle the real life scenarios and problems. Such operating systems have the capability to prioritize the processes, minimize the execution time, and work independently without any interdependencies. Okay, so real time operating systems is used when the time span required to react to an input is rigid and time bound. Okay, even a microsecond of delay will cause the system to fail. For example, in air traffic controls, in robots, in weapons system and industrial control systems, we require the real time operating systems. Okay. Now, there are two types of real time operating system: the hard real time operating system. What is hard real time operating system? These systems guarantee that critical tasks are completed in time. Okay, and then there are soft real time systems. These systems are less restrictive, such as the soft real time operating systems, okay, can be used in undersea exploration, planetary rovers, and virtual reality gamings, and etc. Okay, the next type of operating system is the very important distributed operating system. Okay, so distributed operating systems. Okay, so distributed operating systems run on a set of computers that are located in different geographical areas and are interconnected by a network. Okay, now what happens? The distributed operating system, these are the it controls these interconnected computers and makes them appear as a single computer. The distributed operating system allows all the linked machines to access the data and software, and the process takes over the common network from different computers irrespective of their locations. Okay, so suppose if we talk about the Google, okay, the Google computers or the Google servers are located around the world in different locations. Okay, but they are using a distributed operating systems which makes the user feel like all the computers, you can access all these computers which are located in different locations, okay, by using the Google search options. Okay, why it is made possible? It is made possible with the help of the distributed operating system. Okay, now let us quickly talk about the user interface. We have already discussed about the user interface, but let us quickly talk about the user interface. As we now, what is an interface? An interface is a point where the two systems meet and interact with each other. Okay, for example, hardware hardware system of a computer and software system of a computer. How can they communicate with each other? They can communicate with each other with the help of a interface. So interface is the point where these two systems will meet and they will interact or communicate with each other. Similarly, in computing, user interface refers to the hardware software mechanism by which the user interacts with the computer to pass instructions to it. The operating system of a computer acts as an interface through which the user gives the commands or instructions to the computer and also receives messages from the computer. Without the operating system, interaction between the user and the computer is not possible. Okay, now let's talk about different types of user interfaces. Okay, so we had already discussed that there are two types of user interfaces, GUI and CUI. CUI stands for Character User Interface. Okay, this interface requires user to type commands in order to interact with the computer. This type of interface is not a good choice for the beginners as they have to memorize a good range of commands. So in order to use character user interface, you need to type commands to the computer. Okay, and in order to utilize this type of user interface, you need to memorize lots of commands, and that is why this type of interface is not usually preferred by the beginners or the people who are using the computer newly. Okay, the character user interface is also known as command line interface or CLI. A command line is a space on the display screen in which the commands are typed by the user. Okay, Unix and DOS or the disk operating system are the popular examples of the character user interface. Okay, next let us talk about the GUI or the graphical user interface. This interface is graphics based. As its name suggests, graphical user interface, it is graphics based and interactive in nature. Okay, different devices such as mouse and keyboard etc. are used to interact with the system. GUI is more user friendly as unlike the CUI. It is a bit difficult to use CUI, but it is very easy to use the GUI or graphical user interface. Okay, it does not require user to memorize any commands. Instead, the user uses different menus, options, and buttons to communicate with the system. Okay, Windows is the most popular GUI operating system. So all the examples of Windows, for example, Windows XP, Windows Vista, uh, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, all these are the examples of graphical user interfaces. Okay. Now, let us talk about the advantages of graphical user interface over the character user interface. Okay, what are the advantages of graphical user interface over the character user interface? So, graphical user interface is much attractive and appealing. Obviously, graphical user interface uses different graphics, buttons, menus to and it provides very easy options to the user. That's why it is more attractive. But CUI interface is less attractive and appealing. Okay, because many times in CUI you'll just get a black colored screen and you have to type your commands on that screen with the help of the keyboard. Okay, GUI is easier to learn and more user friendly. Obviously, GUI uses graphics and different buttons are there, and it is easier for the user to use it. Okay. On the other hand, CUI is text-based interface and hence it is not as user-friendly as GUI because you need to just type commands in it. Okay, for that you need to memorize all the commands, which is the next point. With GUI, a user does not have to learn complicated commands, but with CUI, a user is required to memorize many commands to operate and control the CUI. Okay, then GUI users have windows that allows the user to work, view, control and manipulate multiple programs and folders at the same time. CUI does not offer, sorry for the interruption students. Uh, the The third advantage of GUI is that the user does not have to learn complicated commands in graphical user interface, but to use the character user interface, the user has to understand and learn different commands. Okay, next. GUI users have windows that allow the user to work, view, control, and manipulate or change multiple programs and folders at the same time. But CUI does not offer the same ease and ability to work with multiple programs. Okay, so multitasking is not possible in CUI, but it is possible in GUI. Next, GUI supports the use of both mouse and keyboard, but CUI only supports the use of keyboard. You cannot use mouse in the CUI, but you can use both mouse and keyboard in GUI or graphical user interface. In graphical user, the next advantage is that in GUI, the user mostly gets immediate visual feedback of the action he is doing. Okay, for example, the user can see immediately that the file is successfully moved from one location to another or from one directory to another. But in CUI, there is no feedback. If we consider the same example, one or more additional commands will have to be issued to confirm the transfer of the file. Okay, so it simply means that if you are doing something, if you're performing a task in graphical user interface, you can see the task getting performed and you will for sure come to know that the task has been performed. Okay, but in CUI or character user interface, you cannot get the confirmation whether the task is completed or not. For seeing whether the task is completed or not, you have to again enter new commands. Okay, next, in graphical user interface, multiple tasks can run at the same time, but in CUI or character user interface, only one task can be executed at a particular time. So these were the advantages of graphical user interface over character user interface. Next, let us talk about the disadvantages of this graphical user interface over character user interface. So graphical user interface requires more system resources to load the various graphical elements such as icons and fonts. Obviously, graphical things will consume more amount of memory. That's why more system resources, more memory is required. Okay, character user interface. By using character user interface, we require less system resources as compared to the graphical user interface. Now, graphical user interface is still bit slower than the character user interface. Okay, as it uses both mouse and keyboard to control and navigate. Okay, but character user interface uses only keyboard. Okay, that's why it is a bit faster. Okay, when you use two devices, it will require more time, but if you use only one device, you can use it faster. Okay, graphical user interface occupies much larger amount of hard disk space as compared to CUI. Character user interface takes up smaller hard disk space. Graphical user interface requires more RAM to run. Character user interface does not need much RAM to run. Okay, Graphical user interface based operating system is more expensive as user has to pay the license fee. Character user interface based operating systems are less expensive. Okay, so these were the disadvantages of graphical user interface over the character user interface. Okay, so with this we come to an end of this chapter, students. Thank you for listening. Take care of yourself and be well. If you have any doubts, do mention your comments in the comment section and I will try to respond to your doubts and queries. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Take care of yourself. Be well.